Hello world, welcome back to the Unchristian Podcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, do the right thing. Please click on the subscribe button. Click on the notification bell there on YouTube so you can stay abreast and informed of all the new content that we release. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever podcasts are distributed, please do subscribe there as well and leave a comment and a review. It helps to push the podcast to more people so that we can make a greater impact. Thank you for all of you who are helping us to grow, who are sharing the episodes on WhatsApp, via TikTok, wherever you are. We love you so much. You are helping this movement to grow. I am so particularly excited this morning of the episode that we have. I am not alone. I've got King sitting next to me right here. I am protected. I feel so good today. We are having the very first Unchristian Podcast Men's Conference, if I can call it that. But we're going to talk about manhood, true manhood in the 21st century on today's episode. And I've got a wonderful panel right here. So as we begin, let me introduce our guests and who we have here today. On my immediate left, I've got Moseta. He is the founder and the director of a foundation, an organization called Cleaner Jita. It is going to tell us more about that as well. You can already tell that he's passionate about men and developing the male seed. On Neo's left, we've got Seta, Maapola. With us, he's a digital creator, he's an entrepreneur, husband, and a father as well. Neo is also a husband and a father. Let me just say that right there. Yeah. You know, you might have seen a lot of Seta's content particularly on YouTube. Man, this guy speaks his mind and so wisely, and he don't care. And I want all of that today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. A familiar face on the podcast that you know. On the extreme left, last right there, the tallest man in the world.
I wish.
Pastor Lehlohonolo, Mazindo, relationship counselor. He is also a speaker, he's a pastor, and he's a person that we go to when we have problems in our marriages and relationships. Him and his wife are doing particularly well there. They also do premarital counseling and also just other forms of counseling like grief and so on. Thank you so much for being here today, sir. It's good to have you back.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back here.
Yeah, man. All right. We're going to start, gents. We are talking manhood today, right? Yeah. And I want to get your mind on what manhood is about in your hearts and in your minds, because we need to frame and give the right perspective as to what manhood is. And we are going to contrast it. Contrast it.
Where's the dictionary?
There's another word I wanted to say.
Juxtapose.
Just the word. Yeah, so we're going to contrast it with toxic masculinity and other forms of masculinity that are not so right. Yeah. Because we need to, as men, carry the right standards and beliefs about what manhood is about. You can see how good we look today. Man, the niggas are dripping. Brothers are dripping. Dada Mazindo, tell us a bit about the work that you are doing, as a speaker, as a counselor when it comes to issues of manhood, relationships, and so on. What are you doing so people can know all the stuff that they can get from you?
Yeah, first and foremost, I deal with men's identity on their own. Mm-hmm. I've come to realize over the years of my professional and personal experience that masculinity is a subjective experience to men. Okay. But it is structured such a way that it conforms to other people's idea of what it means to be a man.
I got you.
And then that causes a lot of mental health issues among Amajita, because they don't understand themselves as they are. They understand themselves as they ought to be and probably will never be, because that is the standard that does not speak to their identity. So I deal a lot with mental health around men. I'm a male counselor. Okay, I speak a lot at men's conferences. I address men, especially around issues of mental health and relationships.
Awesome.
Because there's a paradox of suicide in gender, whereby more women live with depression than men,
Oh, interesting.
but more men commit suicide than women.
Wow.
So I have to address that with men and say, guys, what makes the difference? Why are we not seeing that we are depressed? Does not talking is not talking enough to show that we are hurting, we are wounded, we are broken. Should we go to psychologists for you to see that we are not well? And at the same time, is it allowed for us to be depressed? Is it allowed for us to be overwhelmed? Is it allowed for us to be confused and not know what to do? Is it allowed for us to be weak, down and out? Because it seems like manhood is a synonym for strength, which is another fallacy that causes a lot of strain in our psychological well-being. Because men, there's a man, there's strengths. Those are not the same. So I help men understand that you don't have to be strong all the time to be a man. Sometimes you have to recognize when you are weak and know how to get yourself back to a place of strength. So I work with men around issues, like I said, their mental health, and I will go deeper, healing the boy in the men, helping men navigate their relationships, helping them distinguish themselves from their fathers without shunning their fathers, without blaming their fathers for all their misfortunes, or without trying too hard not to be like their fathers to an extent that they become toxic. So that's what I do. Briefly, I'm also a psychology lecturer, and I also bring that into the space, the mental health space, and dealing with Mazindo.
Man, as you're talking, I'm realizing I need to study further. I need to further my studies.
I feel you.
Oh man, I think that's the same feeling, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
Seta, in your digital creation platforms and space, tell us about the work that you do. You're very passionate and very vocal about how we should behave as men, and also in the area of relationships. But what's your heart about men and what you do?
My heart. You know, being a digital creator, my focus is mainly relationships.
Awesome.
Be it, you know, romantic relationships or, you know, your family, the relationship you have with your family or your friends. And sometimes I even touch on work a bit. But I think the main one has to be relationship. You know, be it dating or marriage or, you know, things like that. And the topics that I often speak about, I'm addressing us as men because I'm a man. You know, so it's easier and it makes more sense to speak to men, to address, you know, the good qualities as well as the toxic ones in us. That's my main focus on the digital platform.
So how long you been married now?
This year will be the 7th one.
Awesome stuff. And you're happy?
Extremely happy. I'm really happy.
Awesome,
I'm happy. I don't know that. I'm happy.
Madam is watching.
Of course.
Yeah, this is for her.
He has to say that.
No, but on the reals though, like I am happy. I often hear people saying, you know, lenyalo liwima. Okay, liwima if you're carrying it, you know, like, you know, lenyalo lebose. I believe the marriage institution is a beautiful thing.
It is, man.
God ordained. It's really beautiful. I think they are focusing more on the work that you put in and saying that it's hard. Of course, it is hard. It is work.
You have to work.
It is work. I mean, you are unlearning things in yourself and about yourself. And at the same time, your partner is doing the same.
That's right.
Obviously, you're gonna clash. You know. And that's some of the work that you need to put in marriage.
Awesome stuff, man. Daniel,
my leader.
Man, tell us about the work that you're doing as well at Qinajita and other stuff you're involved in. When did your love for talking to men begin?
I can say from a very early age, just to be around Mazindo. I mean, as in Tuan, I've been Tanduguba, Namakrotman, surround myself in Namakrotman and learn more about how they do things. Some of the other things, I had a lot of questions about things like, because I I lacked that role in my house. So I never had a father figure growing it out, teaching me. So I relied more on people from outside. And unfortunately, at some point, you learn wrong things in that journey. So hence the love for Itinajita. So and say, you know what, in 2020, but from long back, I've been looking at small groups. Kuluma Nentwana Zaseka, Chance, this routine tata let's try this. But it is not enough just talking to them. I think Mr. Mazindo also mentioned something which, you know, you need to create a platform where these guys can voice what they are going through. Like if they get that platform, because I mean going to the soccer field is not enough, because Lapana we just cheer everybody, but the real discussions and sensitive stuff about men, they are not being discussed. So Itinajita is all about creating a platform where men can find a space to be themselves and talk about every single thing that they are going through. And the focus mainly was for a boy child, but I also saw a gap. There's a boy, but where's the father? You understand? So you try to close that gap. Guys, let's have some discussions. The boy must tell the father. It doesn't have to be a biological father to say, okay, these are the things that I want to learn from you. But sometimes I mean, growing up, we grew up in a place called Sunrise Park, Doronkop, next to Dobsonville and Proteacle.
Right here in Soweto.
Right here in Soweto. So we're in an area whereby abantu abasipana Transnet, railway. So amatama khona baya bebe lokuba bafaka intwana zabo la ispanini. So but now what about this ones? Tina sinamatama ejardini. So what about us? And now bridging that gap whereby the model that we are using with Tinajita to say mentor a boy child. So if Intwana is good in sports, we bring some professionals and say, you know what, Kuluma Nabo, some guys, Nono Timukwena used to be one of the best soccer players in South Africa. I work with people like that. And then if somebody is good in business, that's money potential. And then in academics, quite a lot of things. If into anything they need, I refer us to and then we sometimes have a conference whereby we fill the placing among Ntuana and time, and we start discussing stuff. We also visit schools and speak to a boy child. I was telling my brother who said that, you know what, at the schools, the more you visit the school, that's where you identify these sensitive issues and these discussions. They are going through a lot. We went to one of the schools not long ago whereby 3 suicidal in now, and then metric into one, they created suicidal, and then you spoke about men are creating suicide, like states. It's more high when it comes to men. So we are having a serious problem. So, and also I'm involved with the youth. Gakulu in the church. I'm an assistant to the pastor in the AFM. Nice. So there's quite involved, and I also work in a very big logistic company in transport, and majority of those people that I work with are men. I'm responsible for close to about 350 men. So you can imagine what happens there in that area. So I have a conference of men every day.
You guys are challenging me. I'm so challenged. Seta, let's frame manhood, right? We're all gonna get an opportunity to do that. I'm cautious with the word define. I'm just saying let's frame manhood in terms of how it looks. True manhood. What is a man? What are we all aspiring to be? What are we trying to raise our boys to be? What is a man?
Being confident in yourself. Having integrity. Leaving something for generations to come. Being kind.
Yeah, man.
I feel like especially kindness, we don't focus on it, and like my brother said, it's viewed as weakness. You know, like the moment you are kind, you're showing the moment you're showing kindness, compassion, you are weak. You are not a man. Where did we get that logic from? You know, and we're telling young boys, man up. Okay, so if he's not crying, he's a man, and when he cries, he's feminine. Where did we get that logic from? So I think we need to break down, what manhood is, because I feel like it's been evolving for years now.
That's the other thing. It's evolving.
It's evolving, and I think if we can have like basic principles, that define what it is, because it's going to mean different things for different people. My values might not be the same as yours, but I feel like if you can stick with your values and they mean something to you and they mean something to your family, because I don't think it's just about you and you just being a man. So if we can have those values and understand what is not manhood, I think maybe we'll get into that a bit later as well, about the toxicity of masculinity. Absolutely. Because it is there.
It is.
That unhealthy version of it.
Sure. I get you, man. That Mazindo, males are born, men are made. Do you agree with that? And what is manhood to you?
Males are born, men are made.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, except that a man is made to be inconsistent with the male.
Talk to me.
Predominantly and inherently, we are males.
Right, of course.
That's our biological identity.
Of course, yeah.
And then being a man is sort of a social construct.
Okay.
You need to be a certain way. You need to subscribe to certain social standards to be classified as a man.
Right.
Yeah. You need to be able to fight. You need to be able to carry heavy objects. You need to be present for your family and children, and at the same time you need to provide for them. Which are contradictory, because if you are present, it means you don't have time to provide.
Funny story. I had a back operation, right? You know my story. So when we have family gatherings, a wedding, funeral, whatever, men are busy. They're slaughtering, picking up heavy chairs, picking up tables,
setting up the tents,
pitching tents. I can't. And it hits me, and it hits my manhood a bit. I'm like,
no, it's true.
What's going on here? But continue.
The question is, what does that make you if you cannot carry heavy objects?
Because that's what's associated with manhood. We do the tough jobs.
Yes. Our identity is associated with what we are capable of doing. And if we are not living up to that standard, we are made to question our very identity. I actually usually describe or define a man in 3 instincts that control most of what he thinks, feels, says, does, and experiences.
Awesome.
The 3 instincts, number 1 is erection. His erection. I mean, his ability to get his manhood up. The second one is affection.
Oh, we're going in already.
We did.
All right.
I think this is what I usually communicate in order to help us understand how men are constructed. The second one is affection. And the third one is aggression. And each one has its specific purpose.
Erection,
affection.
You couldn't wait for that.
Aggression. People who know me and who've been exposed to my talks and teachings, even my students will tell you I'm predominantly a psychoanalyst of note. That means I study the unconscious patterns and conflicts that are responsible, and I study instincts. Men at their instinctive state.
Get you, bro.
Before the interference of culture and societal constructs that define how a man is supposed to be.
Yes, sir.
So before we come across with the society, we are born with those 3 instincts.
Sure.
2 of them are life instincts. Like erection is a life instinct because it's for reproduction. It's for procreation. And then affection is another life instinct because it's responsible for provision, to help us provide,
and care and
nurture.
Right.
And then aggression is for protection. It's a death instinct. It makes us able to stand up to anything that interferes with my territory. Because within my territory is my wife, it's my children, it's my livelihood, my job, my business, and everything that makes me who I am, makes me that enables me to eat and to mate. I almost used the F word there, but I remembered there's a Christian in the name of the podcast.
We are un-Christian, but anyway.
Right. That's those are the three instincts that drive most of what we do.
Is your point saying we need to have these balanced? We have to have these balance, and when one is more dominant than the other, is that now bad manhood? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that we have to reposition them.
Okay.
Because they are misplaced.
All right.
We are aggressive where we should be affectionate. Oof. And we are affectionate where we should be aggressive.
Come on.
And then we lose our erection when we need it. And we use our erection when we don't need it. So they are actually misaligned.
Come on.
And that's a lot of it has to do with how we have been brought up.
Yeah, man.
Men of the 21st century have a serious challenge in terms of identity crisis.
Okay, right.
Because back in the years before even the first industrial revolution, before we moved from farms to factories, fathers used to spend time with their sons from the early age. Yeah. They would go with them to the farm, teach them how to milk cows and how to till the ground. So they spent most of the time with their fathers. And what industrial revolution did is it moved fathers from farms to factories, and that means they had to move from home and go and work in a factory, and they left their boys to be raised by their mothers. And now the father has to be absent from the house, and then the mother unconsciously tries to create a lover out of the son. But because this person is a son, we cannot have sexual relations. They do things that kill the erection. Because I don't need your erection, I need your affection. And I don't need your aggression either. The only thing that I need from you is affection. And that's how they create us. So we are men from women's perspective. So that's why I say men are made, but they are not made consistently with how a male is. So if we can build manhood and masculinity around our birth identity as males, I think we will reduce so many toxic behaviors, even to ourselves as men. I mean, going out of control. Most men are not afraid to be with the worst enemy. They are afraid to be with themselves. That's why we get married. Most of us, we don't get married because we love someone. We get married because we are afraid to be alone. Because when we are alone, we have intrusive thoughts of what we could have been if we had not subscribed to social construct of masculinity. So when you are affectionate when you should be aggressive, like for example, you know that this woman wants to wreck your marriage and steal you from your wife, you should be aggressive to that woman,
to that situation.
But you become affectionate to her,
you entertain it.
Yes. And then when you should be affectionate to your wife, you become aggressive. And then that's why we become violent, and we cheat on them, we beat them, we speak unkind words to them. And why does it come out on them? Is because our mothers raised us to suppress our erection and to suppress our aggression, right, and only express our affection. So if you know by now, what we suppress expresses itself in uglier ways when we least expect it. So usually our aggression to where we should be affectionate, it's the suppressed aggression that is expressing itself in the wrong places,
wrong time.
Yes. So we need to create room for all instincts. Let me make an example of the client that I treated very recently, who had an erection problem. So first and foremost, when you have a problem with your erection, we take you to the GP and check if the problem it's medical or it's a physical problem. Maybe you have a chronic disease or anything like that, or maybe side effects to the medication. But if none of those things are applicable to you, then we know that problems are psychological. So this man has been to men's clinic. I mean, but nothing was working. He couldn't get an erection. No, he got an erection, but he lost it as soon as he got it.
Sure.
And then when I did, when I psychoanalyzed him or interviewed him about his early childhood, it turned out that when he was about 2, every time he would wake up with an erection, the mother got uncomfortable and beat him up. She said something like, you will be a rapist. Because mothers think boys shouldn't have an erection. The only thing that explains an erection is because you want to sleep with someone. I mean, my son got his first erection 3 minutes after he was born. Because I'm the father, I said, oh, that's my boy.
That's the boy.
So, but the mother would have said, oh my goodness, what is this? Oh, has he been doing some things to me in my womb? You know, women think we need reasons for how we feel, how we behave. But we don't need reasons.
I want to interrupt you a bit because I want us to zoom in on some of the stuff that you said. Now, Dr. Mazindo is talking about this gap of the father. We don't have models for manhood. And what do we do about it?
It is tough. I mean, I saw it in my community. Even right now, I'm telling you, it's so difficult. And it's true what he said when he said, you know what, this what you call it, what is happening currently is that, you know, you move from your family to go your pandi up. But things are going like rough at home. And then now there's a big problem whereby now how do we close this gap? And then hence we have to really come together. You know, I know there's a lot of organizations, but we need to get to the point whereby we help our boy child so that we cannot end up there, because if we don't come in or rescue these boys, this is what is going to happen. They're going to misplace this aspect that he spoke about to say, okay, manje magusona, what do I do? Because we don't know. I mean, even I grew up, like I'm married right now. Nobody taught me how to handle a woman. I mean, nobody told me how to, you know, what do you do when your family is going like this? If you are voguing, what do I do? Like, who do I go to?
You had to learn on the job.
Exactly. And then
trial and error.
And then these are the results whereby we have so many divorces today. I think he will agree with me to say there's so many divorces today. It's not like we are fighting, we are boxing each other in the home, but there are certain things that are not in place. And then these boys, divorce, when it goes back again, the boy, we are cooler foot, you know, mama, and then we go back to the same thing. So I think it is time where men of today come to the party and say, you know what can I do?
Sure.
Let us not wait for the psychologists to come through. Let us not wait for pastors to come through. When as in daughter, where you are, in that street where you are, there's a boy there. Be a mentor, be itamalake, be something to this child.
We got to step in and give them father figures.
Exactly. That's the only thing that they need. These boys, we can label them everything, call them nyaupes, call them whatever. Let me tell you, you are investing so much to a girl child. But we spoke Seta earlier on. We are investing so much to this boy, to this girl child. But who's going to marry this girl child? Who is going to be a friend to this girl child? The same boy that you are labeling him as a nyaupe boy, as into a future. Guess what? That same boy is going to marry your daughter. And then you are back to square one, whereby now you are going to be called every night. Then you ask yourself, but you contributed to this boy. If you did something, I hate people or in daughters or suguma kulume, but you have not done a thing to help this boy child. No, man, come on.
So I want us to make it practical and just talk about it, us personally, about our relationships with our fathers, or not,
or the lack of,
you know what I'm saying? You know,
do you have something that I can take before I talk about it?
We're gonna need something strong, bro. We're gonna need something strong, bro.
Water, then maybe.
It's a tough one, isn't it? So I grew up with both parents in the house. My parents are pastors. And my dad was the first one to be a pastor before my mom much later on. And my dad was so passionate about ministry that he was always out doing something for church. And because of ministry, and maybe it was the way that it was constructed back then, maybe even now, he ended up being an absent father. Although he is alive and present in the house, ended up being an absent father. And my mom had to be the one that really, takes over all roles.
Yeah.
He'll come if he goes away on a conference somewhere in a different city, because he used to hold a lot of events out there. Come back after weeks. We'll see him for a few days. Maybe he'll be out again. And there was never an emotional conversation and connections. Never spoke to my dad or my mom about girlfriends and love and sex and how to work myself in marriage. I do remember one conversation that I did have with my dad on it, but in terms of how I was going to frame my understanding of marriage and love, I never had that.
Sure.
Finances, not really. Didn't have a conversation on that. Academics, it was always about you failed or you've not done well, you need to improve. There was never affirmation.
Yeah.
Listen, you can do it.
Yeah.
This is what you must do. Just tough. Where he did affirm me is in the world that he understands the most.
At church.
Ministry.
Yeah.
Church.
Yeah. That's my boy. When you're doing something ministry related.
I'm a pastor.
Oh yeah.
I'm a pastor.
Daddy, thank you so much. You produced a pastor.
Did produce a pastor after all?
Did he also reject your erection?
Not directly, but sex was taboo.
Right.
It's taboo, bro. It's evil. Then you are at marriage stage, and now you're afraid of this thing.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of them.
Where do I
start now? And things dirty, and then you gotta change your mind and all of that. But that in a nutshell, that was with my dad. And one thing that I'll decide later if I'll edit this one out.
Let's hear.
One thing that pissed me off, and still today, is that he will call me only when he wants something.
Sure.
Even now.
He's still alive. Still alive. You say you speak about him in past tense. Have you heard yourself?
I didn't hear myself.
Yeah.
I didn't hear myself.
Yeah, so I automatically assumed that he passed.
Maybe because I was referring to past events or childhood events.
Okay.
But also it could be, and Mazindo will psychoanalyze me perhaps. Maybe it's because there could be a level of writing off the relationship.
Sure.
Maybe.
Sure.
Maybe. I don't know. How was your Seta? How was your relationship with your dad, and how did it affect life?
Which one? Which relationship?
With your dad.
What do you mean? I never really had a relationship with mine.
Yeah.
He would come visit my mother maybe fortnightly.
Sure.
Once in every 2 weeks.
Okay.
We never really had that type of relationship, a father and son relationship. There are many stories, but I think the one that stands out for me and hurts me the most, and even when I speak to my therapist today, it still gets me. He didn't come to my weddings. And I say weddings because as black people we have a few.
We have a couple.
The first one being obviously the initial negotiations.
Yeah.
Because that's a wedding.
It is.
I'm not sure if people knew, but you married if your families come together and
you pay
have an agreement and there's some exchange of something. So that's the first one, and the second one, the main one at my wife's home, and the third one at my home, the receiving of the bride. Nothing.
But you invited him.
And you was told.
Of course.
Oh, cool.
He knew. And I thought, okay, this is like really painful. I'm not sure if you'll edit this one now, but keep it.
Yeah.
I think 2 years after that, my sister got married as well.
Okay.
He didn't come.
Crazy.
And those stand out for me because I'm like, I don't want anything from you, bro. I'm like, I don't want your money. I'm working now. I have a family. I have a whole wife. So I don't need your resources. I just needed your presence. That's all. And you couldn't do that.
Yeah, man.
Those are that stands out for me the most.
Damn, man.
I remember even when I went to my wife's home to meet them for the first time. It's like 6 hours away in Kuruman, Northern Cape. So I got there. I met my wife's mother, amazing woman. May her soul rest in peace. Amazing woman. We spoke for 30 to an hour, getting to know each other. The father wasn't home yet. This was like 2ish, 3ish in the afternoon. We're sitting outside. By the way, Kuruman is extremely hot.
Yeah, I've heard.
So we're sitting outside, getting to know each other, and now the the sun is setting, and I'm like, no, let me call my family to let them know. I call my mother to let her know. By the way, they don't. It's complicated, but I then called my father after that, just to let him know, that this is where I am, just so that he knows. You just want that affirmation from your dad. Just
pat on the back.
I'm trying to do the right thing. Do you see me? I could have, I could have done my own thing with whoever, but I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm telling you that I am at my girlfriend's house to meet her parents. You understand? And this man, he cussed at me.
Yes.
I can't repeat what he said, but he cussed at me and he hung up.
Damn.
And I'm like, maybe I didn't hear properly.
What was the problem? What was he pissed off?
No. Basically, you're still too young to be.
Oh, I see.
You're talking about, meeting
girlfriends and families.
What are you doing? And he cussed at me.
Sure.
And I tried to call him, didn't pick up. I tried to call him again, he didn't pick up. My mother called, and then my mother's like, "Why did you tell him? Why did you call him?" And I'm like, I'm just trying to let him know. And that was painful. That was painful. But anyway, my wife's dad, my girlfriend's dad at the time, he came back from work around 8 in the evening.
Sure.
And him and I sat outside, and we spoke for a good 3 hours outside. And we're talking, we're getting to know each other. And at the end of that conversation, that man shed a tear. I couldn't believe it, because I'm not even used to this. I've never seen. He shed a tear, and then he reached out, with his hand.
Sure.
And then he's like, "From today forward, you will be my son." I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I'm like, how? It had to be God, because how do you get rejected and adopted at the same day? Same day. It doesn't make sense.
Wow, man.
And even at the wedding, he repeated some of the words that he said to me that night.
Man. Oof.
Yeah, that's my relationship with my father.
Crazy,
or the lack of.
Crazy. How did you see it play out in your own life decisions? What kind of gaps did it cause? In hindsight, these things we see in hindsight. That year when I behaved like that was because
my wife is a psychologist now,
right?
But she's also just a very empathetic person.
Sure.
She's very in tune with herself. She calls me out, and I appreciate that about her so much. My wife can call me out, like, "Sit me down, baby. Okay, I saw that you did 1, 2, 3." My wife can have a conversation, bro. Like, you want to be angry, but you can't, because this is truth in love, So she would, call out some of the things that I would do, or some of the things that I would have said. But it's not just her. I would notice things in myself as well. Like, okay, I know that I'm upset, but this type of aggression is too much for this issue. Why am I so angry
at this?
One time I came back from work. She was excited to see me. She wanted to get intimate. And then she undid my tie, and I was so angry.
Wow.
Because no one ever taught me how to tie a tie. So I took all my ties to, some guy to tie them for me. So when she did that, I lost it. And she didn't understand.
She was trampling on a wound.
She was like, it's just a tie. It's not just a tie. It's triggering. It's reminding me of something that I didn't have.
Crazy.
Until I went on YouTube. Now, obviously, you can bring all your ties. I'll do them for you. but those are some of the things. Like,
crazy.
you will be aggressive. You will be terrible with some of the finances. But like my brother said, you need to reach a point where you're like not holding the other person responsible. Okay, you are here now. What are we gonna do? Go on YouTube, learn how to tie a tie. Meet up with friends who have your back to tell you some of the things that you're doing and call you out of them.
Bruh.
Some of your friends need to hold you accountable. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, it would come out in your finances and how you handle them. It can come out in how you become not violent, but this is not you. This is not the real you.
Get you, bro.
It can come out how you father your kids. I'm very sensitive when it comes to my kids, bro. Because I never want them to feel what I felt. I'm very
get you.
Like, you're gonna love my kids or you don't. Because I know what it feels not to be loved, not to be claimed.
Crap, bro.
That's
important one, not to be claimed. Wow. Wow, crazy stuff, man.
I grew up feeling like I'm not enough, man. I'm still learning. I'm not gonna tell you that I'm there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm still trying to see myself as worth it. Seeing myself as someone who is also deserving.
Get yourself. Thanks for sharing that, man. Lehlohonolo, how was your relationship with your dad?
Right. I want to talk about that, but not for a very long time. But I want to move back. Use the first 30 seconds to move back to make us all aware that even though we try to be present as fathers, but the first 5 years of life are very crucial. That's the deepest cut that in your soul that you use later in life to filter every other experience. So saying that I had my relationship with my father in my early childhood, which is the relationship that determined the rest of my life. My father loved me when I was a little boy. I get the feeling that he loves me. I don't know why I say he loved me at the time. But at the same time, he didn't love me enough to protect my mother from his own aggression. My father was in tune with his aggression and his erection, but not his affection.
That was lost to him.
His affection was nowhere to be found. He could protect me, yes, but he couldn't protect my mother against himself. And sometimes he couldn't protect me against his own anger as well. So my father was a very angry man, but I grew now to understand that anger it's sort of a gut emotion. Anger is the emotion that's got our back. Anger is an emotion that will pull you from the place of vulnerability to a place of control. Anger is the emotion that comes when 3 guys attack you and you have to fight back or fly away. Anger is that emotion that produces the fight, flight, or freeze reaction to threat or danger. So I think he had a deep sense of anger, but it's only now when I grew up that it was the anger that was trying to cover up the pain. I think my father was controlled by pain, and he counteracted the pain with the anger. Because pain means you are weak, you are vulnerable, and according to that vocabulary, you are not a man. I think he spent most of his life focusing too much on how to be a man, which is how to beat more people, how to carry heavy objects. He was a boxer, so his boxing, every time he won a match, it sort of affirmed his masculinity. He had to work. He's been driving big trucks all his life, and behind that wheel he feels like a man. I think he spent most of his life, he's still alive, he's in his 60s now, but I think he spent most of his life chasing after his identity as a man, and he was never able to find it. So the problem is he was very abusive to my mother, and some of the incidents I remember them vividly. I would say I inherited most, if not all, of my childhood traumas from my father.
Damn.
And I blame him for that. But I don't only blame him for the traumas that I carried over from him.
Yeah.
I also blame him for the treasures that I inherited from him.
Okay, all right.
Because I used to see my father as a bad person for a very long time, and I didn't want to be anything like him.
Yeah.
And I realized that my orientation towards him being a bad person and nothing good about him, it put me in a place when I missed out a lot of treasures about him.
Damn.
My father is a very resilient and tough guy. He has a very strong personality and a strong spirit that keeps him going even though he's broken. He can go through failure from time to time and tough experiences of life. Guess what? That man will still be standing. I mean, he once said to me, you will see me suffer, but you will never see me hang myself like your uncle did. And that's
layers and layers and layers.
So he the one other thing that he did unaware was he tended to have preference to my friends more than me. Like sometimes I wished I was one of my friends so that I can get more attention from my father. He would play with my friends and forget to play with me, and that led to me having an unjustified affection towards strangers.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be a stranger for him to love me. Wow. So I still find myself trying to become a stranger to my wife, trying
So
to
that
get
she can
her
love
to
you.
love me. So if I'm a stranger, my wife will love me, and that has affected both my marriages. I was married twice to two different people.
Sure.
I'm a marriage therapist whose marriage fell apart. Sometimes at the time the only marriage I couldn't save was mine.
It's yours, yeah.
I didn't see how the childhood wounds that I inherited from my father played out in the demise of my first marriage. And I still live with depression now, chronic depression, major depressive disorder, and I've learned over the past couple of years that this is like a bulk of it comes from my early childhood experiences with my father.
I get you.
And then when my sister was born, he forgot about me. And he focused on the sister, and my mother has always focused on my elder brother, because when my father married my elder brother, when my father married my mother, she already had a son.
Okay.
So my father preferred me to my elder brother, and I think my mother saw that. She forgot about me and focused on my brother. And when my sister was born, my father removed focus on me to my sister, and then I was my mother's attention was on my brother. My father's attention was
So
on
you
my
also
sister.
didn't feel claimed.
So I was on my on my own.
Yeah,
I was
abandonment.
on my own, and I was about 4.
Sure.
I was only 4 years old.
Sure.
And when I was trying to get used to my father loving my sister, he was arrested 1985
Crazy.
for 5 years. He was arrested in 1985. 1980. You can help me with the maths.
Yeah.
It was for 5 years until 1989.
4 years, yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
he was arrested sometime in
Sure.
1984,
Okay.
and then he stayed 5 years in prison.
Yeah.
And without him to protect me, to affirm me, I was subject to many people's opinions about myself.
Sure, man.
Slow, sluggish, stupid. I'm still trying to figure out why they said that.
Yeah.
Because even though they said I was slow, I never ran out of time when we were writing exams.
Yeah.
Actually, I was finishing first when we were writing.
Interesting, yeah.
And then they say I'm sluggish, but I always arrive first at school. And then they say I'm stupid, but I'm always I used to pass better than everybody else. You can see that they had their own standards of speed and stupidity.
Yes.
That I didn't comply to.
Yeah.
So I and I think my father would have played that role. I used to blame him for going to prison, but now I blame him for going to prison, because if he didn't go to prison, I wouldn't be half the man that I am today.
Wow.
Because I've learned to be a better man without him protecting me.
Sure.
If he stayed longer than that time, I would have internalized his violent behavior,
Sure.
and I would have become a violent man.
Tell
So
me,
when he went to prison, he removed the bad role model that I had in him.
Of him, yeah.
Yes. So I didn't. I no longer had to witness him beat my mother and drink himself to stupor and making other babies outside of the marriage. I think his arrest was good for me because it saved me from the trauma of having to witness him assaulting my mother.
Sure. Tell me, you now having reflected, because you've done a lot of reflection on these issues, and you having understood why he did certain things, because I get the sense that you've managed to understand perhaps why he did certain behaviors. Did that help you in forgiving him? For me, when I saw that my father's father also fathered him or treated him the way that he was treating me, and I realized that my dad didn't have a model for affection and for the things that I wanted. It helped me to heal. Is that your testimony as well?
Absolutely, because my grandfather used to proudly tell me that the reason why my father is a man is because when he was 8 years old, his Uncle Paul hit him with a fist on the chest. And he was saying, "I'm making you a man."
Yeah.
And then my father was raised in a violent manner, and he was raised by a man who was raised in a violent manner. My great grandfather, I was told by my father's uncle that my great grandfather used to beat my grandfather and his siblings with sticks. Like that's how he used to beat them in their early childhood, not when they were men. So it was sort of a transgenerational toxicity.
Get you.
And it played out in my father. And in retrospect, because at the time I didn't understand, but in retrospect I see that this man was in pain, and this man didn't know what to do with himself, and now he has to take care of the family. He had he had to always impress his father, and the only way he could impress his father was for him to be a man. Because my grandfather used to tell me I'm not a man because I couldn't carry an engine, because I couldn't carry a heavy furniture at the age of 8, despite the fact that I could read and write and pass. I was not a man in his perspective because I couldn't beat anyone. I can't fight until today. I don't have any strong physical abilities that make me subscribe to the idea of masculinity back then. So that understanding helped me look at him from a place of compassion, not from a place of apprehension.
That's where it is.
And then the other thing that helped me look at him from a place of appreciation is when I did what I call reverse blame. Reverse blame is when I blame him for the good things that I have become. I blame him for a passionate speaker and counselor that I am, because I got some of my passion from his passion in his own things. His passion.
You're giving us therapy now. You're giving us therapy now, right?
I'm a therapist.
You're dealing with us now.
And I blame my father for this, for the therapist that I am, because he gave me the wounds that helped me understand human experience. So that when I help people, I help them with depth. And my father, I blame him for making it impossible for me to judge anyone. Because I know that, everybody is not a thief until they have an opportunity to steal. We say government, they are thieves until they offer you 50 million. And
you're in that position now.
Now you're a thief. So one of the things is, oh my goodness, I wonder how my father made it through this one. Now I'm in my 40s. I need the same compassion that my father needed. And now I said, but I need to be compassionate towards the old man. The reverse blame, I blame him for the artistic man that he is. My father is a very powerful creative artist. I blame him for my creativity.
I see you, man.
I blame my father for my resilience. I used to say I have a weak personality because it's broken, but I think he gave me a strong personality because in as much as I have a broken personality, I still have the spirit that sustained me through the brokenness,
Sure.
so that I keep going even when I feel like I need to die.
I get you.
I blame him for staying alive until his 60s and being the only male in his family who lived beyond his 30s, because he made it possible. He made me see that it's possible for me to live beyond 40. Even though I was terribly depressed at 39, thinking I was not going to make it to 40, I thought about my father. I said, one man made it through, and I blame him for the fact that I managed to persevere, that the hardships that forced me to try to commit suicide before I turned 40, because I had an unconscious belief that I will not make it through the 40 years wall. I blame him for being the model to me that no matter how many times you fall, you can rise up again and again and again. He was in prison for 12 years, from 1998 to 2010, and then when he came back from there, I think he could find a job again. He was over 55. He picked himself up and he started over again. He didn't know any of the developments and how the new trucks were driven, but he was committed to learning. My father does not stop at anything until he gets what he wants to get, whether it's good or it's bad. And I blame him for that kind of tenacity that I have. Because I am the kind of a person who doesn't stop until I get anything that I want.
I get you.
So my thinking in retrospect and understanding, looking at him from a place of compassion, enabled me to be more forgiving and loving towards him. And then looking at him from a place of appreciation, using the technique that I call reverse blame. When I blamed him for the good things that happened to me and for the pain that led me to finding my purpose.
Yes, sir.
I think I appreciate him more.
Awesome. Thank you for that, man. Now, how was your time and your relationship with your dad?
You know, that is why I said I need something strong to talk about it, because when you're sober like this, you don't know how to even share the story. Have you ever felt being abandoned about twice or even more than that? Let me put it in this way. So my biological father is nowhere to be found. I don't know him. I grew up in my early from the next thing that I know, my mother gets married to this wonderful man. Now he's my father. Now I see him as my father. Yes, life goes on. We don't spend a lot of time with him because he's always at work. I'm in Freiburg. They are in Joburg. At around when I was about to do grade 5, I think standard 3 at a time. And we moved to Joburg, and then I start to see the daily life, how he lives with my mother and all those things. Yes, there's always war, there's always fight. When he comes from work, by the way, we run, we make sure that we pretend like we are studying. We go to the room and we open our books and we start making sure. And even doing that, we will fail at school because you know what, this man wants to see you with the book, but he does not sit with you and see what you are studying. There was no a father and son relationship. And when I was 27 years, now remember, I know this man as my biological father. At the age of 27 years, now I discover that somebody gives me a call. Hey bro, I'm your half sister. 27 years, I'm working now, and life is starting to pick up. I managed to move around life, and everything is coming together. The man is already separated with my mother. They divorced. I think I was still in standard 6 when they separated. And now I used to be from Soweto to walk to Lens to school. But I had a father who was working, who was still working, and still could not sustain his family, no food or whatever, if we are surviving, but it's working. So, but for me, actually, I celebrated, by the way, when they separated. I was the happiest child because I knew that now there was going to be peace at home. There's no child that will appreciate seeing their parents fighting every single day. So I say I was one of those celebrated, but I grew up with being in the streets. I go home after school, I'm in the street, play soccer till at night, Saturday, Sunday, wherever. I'm in the street, I'm with men, I'm with boys, whatever. I do everything that the boys are doing. So at the age of 27, then I get a call. Hey, yo, I've been looking for you. Who are you? No, I'm your half sister. Half sister? What do you mean? Half sister. Now it get interesting. Remember, hey, I salute my mom. Hey, Rachel Moseta, away, a good mother. So now I'm thinking. Remember, this woman has been through a lot with my stepfather, and maybe with my biological father when they separated back then. So she made the means to grow these 3 children alone, like as a domestic worker. So now comes this lady, says from Spring View to say, no, I'm your half sister. Amen. Make an appointment. I don't tell my mom anything. Make an appointment. How? She says, yo, I'm from Freiburg. Yes. We were born Freiburg, and then I got your number from my grandmother. And then she said, you are. So I have to go home and ask my mom. When I get home, mommy, what's the story? She starts crying. Yo, now I don't want to see her cry. Now another man is rising. Now I remember. Now I need to protect her. I need to make sure that now I don't have that conversation with my mom, because I don't want to see her crying. So I have to leave and pause that discussion. But now this thing is killing me. This Neo is like a youth leader in the church. He's going to church every Sunday. Now I'm crying, but nobody sees it, because now I grew up in the street. I'm groomed. You're supposed to be a man. Tough. You cannot. I can't cry. The bad thing, let me just share this before I forget it. Last year I was celebrating 10 years in marriage with my wife.
Congratulations.
And so this year is the 11th year. So for the first time, everybody, when they saw me crying, they sort of, like, the whole house cried, because they said, this guy, nobody ever saw me cry. My brothers, like, I was like, they will even make comment to say that guy is a rock, is a stone. I cried there out there. So everybody was shocked that I cried last year, and I was also shocked to myself. What is this? What is happening to me? I went home, like, I was questioning myself. Like, why am I crying? But that's how I grew up to fend for myself, to make a plan. When I get to a place, I see that things are not coming together, I play the steering. Like I just want to see if somebody's maybe needs something. I want to get there and make sure that this person is being taken care of, because I miss that. I don't know what it is, because I know nobody came to me and asked me, how am I feeling?
What do you need?
You go to church, and then I salute my pastor also, who played a role, who took over, Pastor Samuel Mudikwe, who took over a role of being a father to me, who taught me how to drive at an early age. But we need such men who will step in. But again, after church, he goes to his family. I must go to your situation. Go to my situation. And then the gap again starts. During the week, I'm alone. I'm waiting for Sunday again to come. So that was life in general. So now I'm being abandoned by my biological father. Second time, my stepfather comes in again. He leaves. Now I'm remaining with my mom. Then later, when my half sister, coming back to the story of my half sister, then I said, you know what? Let me not hurt my mother further. I'm scared of that conversation, because I don't want to hurt her. Even today, we haven't had that discussion, by the way. Since that, we never had that discussion. So I said, okay, where's my father? Is he still alive? I'm now interested. I'm excited. We make an appointment. He says, no, get off from work. I said, hey, I'm going to Freiburg. Guess what? I get there. The man is pop drunk. He knows that I'm coming. He's got a nice family. Yes. Utagwe, like Nyangena, like I'm driving from Joburg near Freiburg in the northwest. About 500 k's from here. When I get there, the man is drunk. I can't have a conversation with him. He's busy holding me rough, like, busy of my right, and then says, then I look at this guy. I stayed in that house for about, I think 30 minutes was enough. And then I told them, it was very disappointing to my sister, who even cried, my half sister, who even cried and said, how can my father drink what he knows that this boy he has never seen for 27 years? Not 15, 27 years. I'm an adult now. I don't need anything from him. I'm working, I'm fine. But I just wanted to, I can't have that conversation with my mother. I want to have this conversation with my father. You understand? I'm longing for that, but I cannot have that. So I had to 30 minutes, jump out, drive out. Everybody, his wife tried to stop me. I said, no. Now the anger, double. I come back. Now what do? I get married at 30. I now try to play the super father. Now whatever that I did not have growing up, I'm making sure that my son, you see, it's pushing me to another limit, and then I may miss certain things. I think Mazindo mentioned it earlier on. At the end of the day, you are doing certain things. You don't even have a gauge, a measurement to how when I'm doing this fathering, how far can I go? That is why you'll see us, even the TikToks or the YouTubes, you are playing with your son, you're making sure you're hugging him, you're doing every single thing. Exactly. The word, and then at the end of the day, sometimes namanja angikho nokhala. It was that time I thought na today ngizokhala mangikhuluma ngaso, but it's khulekile ukuphuma. But those are the things that we went through. You, man. And I just want to put this one in, and then I'm happy that the pastor is here also. These are some of the conversations that are also missing in the churches.
Yes.
And then you see the people coming to church. These people are hating, especially a boy child. It is time that we take care. We say churches are full of women and children.
Yes, right.
Men are not coming. Who have ever asked themselves a question why men are not coming? Because we are hating, and we know when we come there. So everybody does everything. No platform to talk. So we need to create those things, those platforms, and say, you know what, these boys.
I get you.
That's where I come from.
No, thanks for sharing, man. Seta, I want to get to the issue of love and relationships. Because our manhood and our masculinity, in whatever sense it is, whether toxic or good, plays out. Comes out through there. What is expected of a man when he brings a woman in his life? He says, I love you, I want to build a life with you. Maybe they've not had that conversation about forever after. But he's got feelings for her, he brings in life. What is expected of this guy? What makes him a good partner?
Firstly, we don't have, a lot of us don't, we don't have a model of what a healthy relationship looks like.
That's right.
So we can't be like, baby, this is what we're supposed to get. So you have to create that model. And by creating that model, you need to listen. You need to listen. A lot of us here, we don't listen. We need to have honest conversations with our partners. That's the biggest thing. We need to have honest conversations, even if they are uncomfortable. Especially if they're uncomfortable, because I feel like that's where there's growth. Let's have honest conversations about communication itself. Let's have honest conversations about finances. Let's have honest conversations about sex. We don't speak about these things. We don't. The dating phase. It's nice. We don't ask the questions that we're supposed to be asking during the dating phase, and then we get married, and then we get shocked why things are not working out. I didn't know, that you spend or you don't spend. I didn't know that you like sex this way, or you don't really like sex, basically. These are the type of conversations that we're supposed to be having beforehand. Let's have this conversation so that we can have that model that we can refer to. Your partner can tell you, but this is what I told you I want. Let's talk about love languages. What makes you tick doesn't necessarily make your partner talk. We're supposed to have these conversations like, what is your love language? What do you like? How do you get when you're angry? Like let's talk about how do you get when you're angry?
How does your anger look like?
Exactly, because we get into marriage and then your partner is like super aggressive. You're like,
I didn't know this.
You could have asked. You could have asked so that you know what you're getting into
Yeah.
in the relationship. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My biggest thing is let's have these honest conversations with our partners as men.
Yeah, we don't like talking even to our partners.
Yeah.
And we need a solution about how we can do this. Like Lehlohonolo was talking about the aggression part,
Yeah.
how even that must be modeled from our fathers,
Yeah.
sort of, so that you can use the aggression in the right way.
Yes.
I think the others, the other two that you spoke about, the erection and the affection, I think I'm okay there. But when it comes to aggression, it plays out. I'm not okay in that area because it plays out in being avoidant of confrontation,
Yeah.
of difficult issues,
Yeah.
and so on. So you are talking about how we're supposed to have open and honest conversations. I want to,
Yeah.
but I get my aggression doesn't come into play
Yeah.
in the right space there when I have to now confront something difficult.
Yes.
When I have to confront something I don't like, I'd rather brush it under the carpet, and then it kills the relationship.
Yeah,
right?
it definitely does.
So we
Ukasikhuluma.
hey, ukasikhuluma, I'm like, yeah. So what's the solution to talking, man? How can we be better communicators?
Better communicators. Firstly, also the partner that you're choosing, man.
Yeah.
Like they need to be able to create a safe space for you to talk. Because a lot of men will tell you this as an excuse. Some actually valid. That I don't speak because it's gonna come back to bite me somehow.
Yeah.
Like I can't address certain things because it's gonna be taken. Find a partner that you can have an honest conversation with that won't bring something up at a later stage. Like you once did this. Okay, but I thought we moved past that. I thought you forgave me. Do you want to take it? How you can be a better communicator?
Jump in there.
No, I just want to add, because sometimes what happens is that people tend to hide certain behaviors. Then after that, I'm throw. And
then it comes out later.
You felt compelled, or I can't bail out here. Like I have to stick it through.
I'm in,
and I'm in, and I think that is what kills us. And then let us not try to give a picture that I'm not. Like notice we are at fault here as men because we tend to accept everything, especially on that dating phase. We tend to give a wrong picture to everybody to say I am perfect. And then when you get in there, you start to reveal these other behaviors and then what you call. But as Seta said, you know what? At the end of the day, create a space whereby your partner is able to talk to you, and then you are also able to express yourself. Because if there's no that platform, I'm telling you, even your partner will be scared to speak to you. And then, as you said, sometimes you'll rather say, you know what, Kalil ukuthi why you spend it R2. So you know what, for me not to what you call, you'll go rather uyiboleka the R2 to replace it. You understand? Because you want peace. Thina singabantu boxolo.
We want peace by all means. We are afraid of war.
We want peace, but at the end this peace is killing us. It's killing us, and then it makes us.
It's not a real peace.
Exactly. It makes us to make more mistakes. But for me, what I've seen working. Let us create a healthy space where your family it does not have to be your partner only, but even your children to have an access to talk to you. And daddy, I messed up at school. Daddy, my marks, I expected 100, but I got 50. So how do you react to this child? You will determine what you usazobuya kuwe kusasa. You understand? So even your partner, when she raises certain things with you, and then you keep on shutting her up, she will never talk. She will go outside. Ayofuna amanye advices, and then exactly. Then you understand?
So, I learned recently that when it comes to communication, as openness in marriage, there are three aspects. And I want Mazindo to comment on it. There is honesty, there's transparency, there's vulnerability. Honesty means if my partner asks me, I give the truth. Okay. I give it the truth when she asks. Transparency is she doesn't have to ask, but by looking at me, she can observe and see the truth.
That
'Cause
language.
that I'm transparent. She can find the truth for herself. Okay? Vulnerability means I don't wait for her to ask. I don't expect her to see only,
Yeah.
but I offer the truth.
Yes.
I give it to, before she asks.
Good luck.
And that's vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's me saying, I'm not okay today.
Yeah.
I lost a client.
That's how I'm feeling.
That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Before she has to
See.
what's up with you?
See what's
wrong?
happening. Yeah.
That wasn't how can we be better lovers in relationships?
Yeah. They say love cuts deep.
Doesn't it?
Deep means dark.
Yeah.
It means invisible. But just because we don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not playing out underneath the surface. So is communication. Communication, I've been training people about communication for 17 years now.
Sure.
Professionally.
Yeah.
And I can tell you now, even as a lecturer, I teach modules on communication.
Right.
It's the easiest skill to teach,
Okay.
but the hardest to practice, to apply. Because when we teach about communication, we break it down into 3 elements:
Talk to me.
the receiver, or the sender, the message, and the receiver.
Yes.
We don't say anything about the sender and the receiver
Yeah.
and how they affect the message.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that we need to do for us to communicate better is for us to develop a very sharp awareness of our wounds,
Okay.
our filters,
Yeah.
and our triggers.
Wounds, filters, triggers.
Because we
Can you
don't.
try and define these before you go forward? Just shortly.
Yeah.
What are these?
The wounds are the traumas that we sustained from our past.
Okay, understood.
And those are the traumas that lead to us falling in love. Sometimes we think we are falling in love with our hearts.
Oh, God,
only
come
to find
on.
that we are falling in love with our wounds. Your father didn't approve of you.
Yeah.
They did. Let me talk about the example that you gave when you presented results from school. Why didn't you do better? When you did well, nothing is said.
Yeah,
I
nothing
mean,
is
they
said.
just disapproving of you.
Yeah.
That can trick you into thinking your love language is words of affirmation.
And actually, that's what I say.
Actually, yes,
that is what I say
certainly.
today.
No. It's I don't know. It's your feeler language. It's the language that fills the wound that was opened
Feeler
by the parents
language.
who did not approve you.
And that Mazindo, you're talking.
Who did not say kind words to you. Who did not say I love you. You know how hard it is for a father to sit with his son and say, son, I love you. And you know how badly sons need to hear that. And because they don't hear that coming from their fathers, sometimes they don't even hear that coming from their fathers. Know how instead of Ari, I love you,
That's her
and
saying,
then,
I love you.
that's the closest you can get to I love you.
Yeah.
That's right.
You try to please them, they said, but sit down. You don't know anything about how to make us proud.
Yeah.
And then that leaves a wound. And a wound leaves a void.
Yes, sir.
And a void creates a value,
I get
a
you.
value system. So that's why our values are linked to our voids. You think you value love,
Yeah.
only to find that you value the void or how love fills the void.
That void. Tell me about filters.
Filters is we don't hear what people say. We hear our own interpretations of what they say.
Phew.
When my wife says, can you see the car that's coming behind you? When I'm driving,
Yeah.
what I hear is, you are incompetent, you can't do anything
can't
right,
drive.
you are stupid, you are slow, you are sluggish,
It's your interpretation.
you can't do anything right, you are
Yeah.
incompetent.
Goodness me.
That's what I hear. And she thought I was only trying to look out for you.
Yeah.
And then he says, I don't understand how such small things lead to big arguments. I usually say to my wife, it's not about. There was one day when I forgot to buy the medication, and she confronted me, and it became a very serious tension. And he said, I don't understand how such small things create such big tension.
things.
I said, it's not about the pills. It's about how I interpret your disapproval of me as a person
Shoot.
when I forget to buy the pills.
Come on.
you think I forget to buy the pills, but I don't forget to see my clients. But when I sit down to diarize what you're trying to say, you say you don't love me enough to remember. And then you compare me to the clients, and the clients, I diarize everything, and I write case notes so that I don't forget anything about them. And when I try to use the same strategy not to forget what she says, it comes across like I don't love her enough to remember. But I love my clients enough to remember their issues and affairs.
And how do triggers work in this conversation?
Triggers it's our wives keep on pulling triggers that for the bullets that they did not insert in us. When we got hurt, abandoned, rejected, neglected,
we were loaded with bullets,
abused in our childhood, we were loaded with bullets.
Goodness me.
So all those emotions, all those repressed impulses that we have, they are all those things that hurt us, and they told us not to cry. You know, when you take a toy from a child, and when a child cries, you say shut up, and the child has to force that feel that emotion down. Those are the wounds and the cuts. Those are the bullets that are actually stacked in our souls, and they are operating below our awareness, because you can't see bullets in the car, in a gun, but that it doesn't mean they are not there. So we are all loaded guns, and our wives lovingly pull triggers
without knowing.
Of course. I mean, when you are loving a person with an open wound, even a hug hurts. And when you hurt, you have to protect yourself from the pain, and you need to be aggressive. Sometimes we fall in love with our wounds, and we spend the rest of our lives protecting our wounds from the women who are trying to love us.
I get you.
No matter how softly I touch you, no matter how gently I approach you, you always get seriously offended, and it leads to big tensions. It's because she is lovingly pulling triggers to the guns that were loaded long before she was born.
So talk to me about what you were explaining about the message, the sender of the message, and the receiver. In how we can become better communicators. How do those play out, and so that we can be conscious of how to frame a message? I am the sender, there's a receiver, whatever. What does this have to do with communication?
Because it is the sender and the receiver that create meanings to the message.
I get you.
The message can have nothing to do with the meaning they create, but they will create it. For example, my wife tries to call me now. And then I miss her call. And 30 seconds later, I return the call. And she says, you didn't answer my phone. And then she becomes very angry. And then when she becomes very angry, I remember my stepmother who spoke to me exactly like that. And then I start responding to the stepmother. And she's not responding to me, not answering the phone. Because every time when I'm at home, 24/7, my phone is with me. So I'm always with my phone. And then when I'm away from her, she expects
the same,
that I shouldn't miss her call because I should always have my phone. So me saying I didn't hear it is unacceptable to her, because she knows that when I'm home, I'm always on the phone. So she's not responding to the fact that you didn't pick up the phone. She's responding to the fact that you are always on the phone when we are at home. But when you are always available, when the fact that you are on the phone, even if you are playing games, she thinks you are responding to everybody immediately. And then when I'm the one that you should be responding to, when I call you, you don't pick up the phone. You don't value me, you don't love me, you don't see me, you don't think I'm important, you don't appreciate me, you don't want this marriage. That is what comes with the message, as created by the messenger, by the sender. And then the receiver will hear, okay, here is my mother again, ranting about how much I'm not good enough, how incompetent I am, and how much of a man am I struggling to be. And then now you are responding to that. So what is happening there has nothing to do with the message. It has everything to do with the meanings and interpretations that are assigned to the message by the sender and the receiver. That is why I say we should be aware of our wounds, so that we can see, we can understand when we filter things through with our wounds, and we should be able to be aware of our triggers so that I understand, but this is not the reaction that my wife deserves. it's like I'm responding to something else.
Yeah.
So you need to be aware of that. Become conscious of it. Be aware when you trigger. Weigh your reactions against your wife's actions. And if you are overreacting, you are probably being triggered.
Yeah.
And then if we can guard against being triggered, but it starts with being aware of what triggers you.
What are my
What
triggers?
wounds do you have? How do you tend to filter the message that you have you hear through your wounds? And that suggests that you give yourself at least 5 seconds before you respond, so that you can process the message and produce the response that is equivalent to the message that you released, not that is equivalent with the pain in your heart.
I get you, sir. We got 5 minutes. We've really run out of time, and I want us to give closing words to men.
Okay.
Whatever's in your heart, talk to the guys. Whatever that you feel we need to establish in our minds and hearts as men.
Yeah.
Men, I mean, the social ills in society,
Yeah.
in the majority, we are to blame.
Yeah.
GBV, and we not even discussed
Yeah.
properly violence. We did discuss aggression, but we didn't get to GBV, and I'm hoping that we can have a follow-up conversation.
Definitely.
Us all. But Seta, begin please, and just give your closing remarks to men. Majid.
Love yourself. Before you do anything, love yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you love yourself, you identify things in you that need healing.
Sure.
Your triggers, like you said, your filters,
Yeah.
things that cause a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
Firstly, love yourself.
Yeah.
And second, acknowledge all those triggers, those traumas. Acknowledge them and embrace them.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we run away from them.
Yeah.
We don't want to acknowledge that this actually scarred me. I have a wound because of this situation. So acknowledge all those things, and then surround yourself with people that care about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surround yourself with people that want you to win, people that have your back, people that you can be in a room with and you are speaking without speaking. So find such people. Find people that you can actually speak to,
Yes, sir.
and that can listen to you.
Yes, sir.
People who won't listen to respond, because oftentimes when someone tells you their issues, you want to respond, you want to offer a solution, you want to help, but this person just wants you to listen.
To listen. Yeah.
We need
So
such
important.
people in our lives as men.
Yeah.
People that you can speak to,
Yeah.
and they won't try to become your therapist. People that will listen to you, that will walk with you, that will guide you. Yeah.
Awesome. I was listening to another podcast called The Diary of a CEO. Sean Bartlett is the host there. He was talking to Simon Sinek, the author, and they were talking about this, with this principle you're saying about sitting with me in the mud. Sometimes I'm in a mess.
Sure.
I'm in a pool of mud, and I'm sitting there. Sometimes the best way to be there for me, just come and sit with me
Yeah.
in the mud.
Yeah.
Don't give me a solution.
Yeah.
Don't give me ideas.
Yeah.
Just sit with me.
Yeah.
If I've lost someone through death or something, you don't know what to say. You've
Yeah.
got to fix it.
Yeah.
But just you sitting with me
Yeah.
reassures me.
Yeah.
So that's important. I
Or
like that.
he is going through a divorce.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do that is gonna change
Yeah,
him?
yeah.
Just be there.
Just be there.
Just be present.
Yeah.
You know that he's going through a lot.
Yeah.
Just go and chill with him. Just be in his presence.
Get you, man.
Sometimes that's all a person just needs.
Awesome stuff. That's your closing remarks.
Yeah, I think to all the guys out there, especially men, boy, child, it is okay to go through stuff.
It's okay.
It is okay. You've lost it all. It is okay.
Yeah.
Make sure that you open up, you talk about it. Go and ask help. Don't listen to this myth that you'll be showing your weakness, we stay fair. It is okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got people that can help, counselors and all that.
Yeah.
Please, let's seek help.
Yeah.
If we kunentwane kaso yabona uthi yaphayiziseka esitime attend to that boy child. Make sure that you are there, you play a father role in churches. Please let us help where we can as men, and it's okay to be us, guys. But you know what, we shall win. I will say Tina Jita.
Awesome. That Mazindo, the 2 minutes closure, last words to the men.
Number one, stop allowing the wounded boy you used to be to get in the way of a loving man that you are capable of becoming. Address that boy. He's hurt, he's wounded. You are not wounded by people around you. You were wounded when your parents and your caregivers thought you were too young to understand. And then keep that boy in check. Build relationship with the boy so that he doesn't take over the man that you are.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, the sooner you admit your unconscious hatred for your mother, the less you will take it out on your wife and your children. Men protect their mothers with all their souls. And part of my professional work, in my professional experience, one of the hardest thing to do is to help men admit that unconsciously they have this hatred for their mothers, especially if their mothers have been victims of violence and abuse. You think because they were victims, they cannot be villains, and then they were victims to your fathers, and because of that, there are things that they did that made them villains towards you. And then you make excuses for them, and then you suppress your hatred for them, and then before you know it, you are taking it out on people who were not there when your mothers wounded you. Admit and acknowledge your unconscious hatred for your mother so that you don't take it out on your wife. And number three, you don't have to remain or to always be strong to be a man. Weakness is not the opposite of strength, it's part of it. You can't always be strong, and you can't always be weak. Embrace yourself in totality as a person. You are a sinner and a saint, and the more you deny the sinner in you, the more you will project the sinner onto other people. You carry both light and darkness, and the more you deny the darkness, the more you spread it into the world around you. So accept yourself as a whole person. You have weaknesses and your strength. One of the things that make it difficult for us to engage in communications is because those communications highlight the shadow in us, the darkness in us, the sinner in us, the undesirable qualities that we have. Unless we embrace them and as part of who we are, we will not be comfortable when they point them out, because we get married avoiding to be alone, to avoid being with ourselves, and we run into mirrors. We think they are marriages. It's a mirror, because you are married to someone who will mirror the things that you don't want to know about yourself. So as soon as you acknowledge that the fact that you are doing good, it doesn't mean you are incapable of doing harm. Being a good person is not incapability for I don't remember that word, or harm that we can inflict on people, but it's being capable of putting the harm we are capable of doing under control. It's like your car has a speed limit of 260 kilometers per hour, and then just because it has that capacity doesn't mean you have to drive it all the way. You need to, it's capable of reaching that speed, but you need to be capable of keeping it within the required speed. So you need to be disciplined enough to keep it in control. You need to be capable of being angry and aggressive, and capable of keeping that aggression within certain limits and within certain context. Don't be aggressive when you should be affectionate, and don't be affectionate when you should be aggressive. And lastly, use your erection wisely. Use it with affection and not with aggression. If you use it with aggression, you become a rapist even to the person that is trying to love you.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, wise words that you've dropped here. I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for this episode. Please, we gotta do a part 2 of this in weeks to come. Please do come back. Everyone who comes on the Unchristian podcast becomes a friend. of the podcast. That's why Dr. Mazindo is here for the third time now.
You're a regular.
He's the highest return rate. It's him. He's got the crowd. He's got the crowd. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching wherever you are in the world. We've already put the details on the screen of how you can get hold of these gentlemen for your events, for business, and so forth. Get in touch with them. Work with them. They have got something powerful to give to this world, and you have seen it already. But anyway, for myself, Ndumiso Mazibuko on that Christian podcast, thank you so much. God bless you.
Amen.